My name is Mark Snyder, Snyder Electric, and my main office is in actually the San Diego area, but I work all over the world. We have global reach with the projects that we've done. Everywhere from Southern California to Africa to Iraq. There's a big question today, what's the best battery to use? Now you really need to know what kind of application. You really need to know what the application is that you're using the battery for, and how many hours a day you need to use the battery, etc. You really need to do the homework before you install your batteries. But as far as the life of batteries are concerned, lead acid batteries have been around for a long time. They've been around for over 120 years now. And lithium is a newcomer to the market. Lithium batteries, I believe in lithium. Lithium batteries are good for certain application. Cars, they're working out very well where there is a steady application. But as far as off-grid applications and peak shaving and other applications, it's questionable as far as how well they're really holding up. I'm also a representative for Xantrex mobile applications and also Snyder Electric, and we have had a lot of calls on lithium batteries that have been failing, and most of the failures are due to misapplication. Over-promising and underperforming is the single largest issue. So how do I know what battery is the best for my application? Well, I've lived off-grid for 35 years now, and I have the 2-volt single cell. Mine's a 1200 amp hour battery, and I run my whole farm off of it. I have a 20-acre organic farm in the mountains of Escondido, California, and my batteries run my well, they run the house, and I have a tenant that also runs their power. Now, we're as energy efficient as humanly possible in order to get the most out of our batteries, and we cycle our batteries 50%. In the winter, they cycle about 50%. In the summer, more like 20-25%. There aren't any secrets, really. The long haul is really what proves whether a battery is going to hold up in your application or not. And the best thing to do is do that homework in advance, know how many amp hours you really need of power, and also know your charging is extremely important, just as important as your discharging. If you don't put enough power into the batteries, you can't expect to get the power out of your batteries. I've done work for Department of Energy, NASA, the Space Administration, Office of Emergency Services, the Forest Service. You know, we have customers all across the spectrum. I've been doing work as a forensic electrician for San Diego Gas and Electric, the San Diego utility, for 33 years. We go out and take a look after there's been explosions or fires or things. We go out and assess them and tell them what happened, forensically what occurred, and whether they're responsible or it's a responsibility of the third party. So we've done projects. Crown has been a great project partner. We've done projects. We have a large project on Navajo Nation that we did in 2011 with about 45 elders, and also we built a totally energy efficient house. So a brief history on batteries. Batteries started about 1859 and we're at 2019. And we've gone from zero recycling on lead acid batteries up to about 95% recyclable now in 2019. They're more recyclable than tin cans and plastic bottles. So that's, there was a rollover year for batteries when batteries became automated. Our rollover year we call the tie year. That's about 1993. So it's on our graph here. there is no silver bullet in energy storage. Sizing and really knowing what your loads are is everything. You can't we've seen so many systems, a lot of lithium systems installed. I had a commercial complex just recently where a system was installed to run the whole building, and they only had enough to run their servers. So as soon as they had a power outage, crash went everything. We got a call from the customer. They had a power outage, a transformer go bad, so we just happened to be called onto the scene to represent the utility, and we were able to help the people get their batteries, get the system back on quickly, but they had a basic fault to their system. They did not properly size their system. All types of batteries need maintenance. No matter what your battery is, it has a definitive life cycle length of time that it will last, and there's a proper way to use your battery and an improper way. You can't put your batteries. Recently, we had an installation where they installed a couple of Snyder inverters and about 300 kilowatt hours of lithium batteries, and at 11 o'clock every day, the whole system was in direct sunlight. Well, our charge controller, the MPPT 8600 charge controller, was thermaling, the inverters were thermaling, and everything was derating, so they were getting instead of getting their full production out of the system, they're getting about 40 to 60% out of a 12 kilowatt system and wondering why it wasn't working. So temperature. If you can keep the batteries cool, then you're going to have a really long life. On Navajo Nation, when we did the installation there, what we actually did is we engineered a specific solution. We have a solar hot air heated enclosure we call an IMPAS. We built a little enclosure that we put 8 of the Crown batteries into. There we used the CR390, and we were a big problem on Navajo Nation was freezing the batteries. Past installations had frozen the batteries because they did not take in consideration the freezing winter temperatures, sub-zero, or the very hot summer temperatures of 110, 115 degrees. Both of those are very important. So I actually invented a hot air panel, put it on there, and we have a super insulated room that we keep around 80, 85 degrees year round. In the wintertime, we keep it closer to 75, 78 degrees with the heat. Even when it's sub-zero outside, it's nice and toasty in there. And oftentimes when the elders run out of firewood, they'll go sleep in our battery room on top of our battery container. We have a Rubbermaid battery container in there. Okay, consider end of life and recyclability. This is one of the biggest downfalls of lithium batteries today. They're only about 5% recycled. I don't know of any manufacturer yet that has taken the responsibility for recycling their batteries. So I challenge all the manufacturers to do this. So 5% is not very good. So we want to see that recyclability come up so the batteries are much more viable. Real world lifespan. What you do in a laboratory and what you do in the real world are two totally different things. I know my batteries, at 24 years old, my batteries are still 90% an hour after sunset with a small load on them. And by the beginning of the next day, even in the wintertime, I've still got 50% capacity. So that's pretty darn good, and that's not projection, that's real life. My batteries are 24 years old. We're going to have a birthday party and cake for them tomorrow. So that's really important. We're seeing more like they came out with 10-year warranties, and they're now dialing those back to 5-year on a lot of lithium batteries. And they're also saying, watch your cycles. I've challenged all the manufacturers to show me 100% drain down on batteries. I have not seen it yet. And just engineering wise, if you think about it, I'm a forensic guy. I want to know for sure what's happening. you take a battery and you drain it down to 100%, what do you have to do? You also have to drop your load down along with that battery. So if you don't load shed along with when your battery is going lower, then you're not seeing the whole picture here. It's going to drop, the battery voltage is going to drop out, your inverter is going to drop out long before the battery capacity is used. Well, if somebody says it's last 10 years, I want to see it, and if they're in business and going to back up a 10-year warranty, I want to see that insurance. So that third-party insurance, or want to see some sort of bond. Surge capacity. You want to have extra battery capacity to be able to handle those surges. The lower your battery capacity, when I drain down my 1200 amp hour battery to 50%, I still have a 600 amp hour reserve in that battery, and that's where I can handle my compressor loads and my and my other motor loads. That's very important. You got to size your battery so you have that reserve to be able to handle those surges and those heavy usage periods. Make sure that surge capacity is there. If it isn't, they're going to fail you at the time when you need it the most. Depth of discharge. So that depth of discharge is such an important thing. If you want a long life on batteries, AGMs, we had AGM batteries in the Ralph's family, supermarket family in San Diego. They have a big 5,000 square foot house that sits on the edge of a lake in 360 acres. Those batteries lasted 18 years, and we were cycling those batteries about an average of 10 to 15%. If you want a long life on AGM batteries, you oversize your array, and then your depth of discharge is regulated by your loads. You want that depth of discharge to remain shallow enough for that long cycle life. On lithium batteries, the most we've really seen out of them is 70%, and then they drop out. Depending on the loads, they drop out more severely with heavier loads, of course. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Have we heard this before? So yes, and it's true. So we've seen the failures with smoke coming out of batteries and smoke coming out of inverters. You go look at them and you see immediately that somebody has undersized their battery and their inverter system for the loads. Just 2 days ago, we do a lot of surgical centers and hospitals. 2 days ago, we installed a system maybe about a month ago in the surgical center, and what they do is they scrub down the surgical center after each surgery, and then they plug the cords, and the cords have matching labels on them, and they match them into the outlets that say battery backup. Well, it just so happens they had a new crew and didn't match it up, and I got a call and they had someone intubated on the table, and their backup system, their power went out and their backup system went on. Well, it went off very quickly when they didn't have the power that they needed. Blew the breaker on the inverter and shut down the breaker in the panel. Well, we got our guy on the line, and they called me, and I talked to them very quickly, got them breakers back on and everything back up and the right things plugged in. So you got to be very careful, especially in critical load applications, that you have your load is matched to your battery capacity. Very, very important. And amp hour conversion to kilowatts is something that everyone needs to learn. Every installer needs to be trained, not just thrown out there with a bunch of batteries, throw them in there and hook the whole house to the system and think it's going to work. It doesn't work that way. Get everything in writing. If someone's going to make a claim that something's going to last 100% DOD, get it in writing. Be sure they have really good insurance, because they're probably going to need it. It's always reasonable to oversize your system. Even if it's a lithium system, I'm recommending oversizing, especially if you're adding more loads. We've revamped now at least 50 lithium systems, and they are working, but we had to dial way back the people's expectation, take all the air conditioning off the systems, and just put it lighting and refrigerator and minor loads. Safety matters, whether it's a lead acid battery or a lithium battery. We also deal with mobile applications and RVs, and I've gotten a dozen calls of one fire in the Midwest on a bus line that had lithium batteries, and what they did is they put the lithium batteries in, and they could not hold up to the fast discharge rate. They put way too much load on them, and they got hot, and so the one had a fire. The other ones, we've been able to coach the people, redo the loads, and dial back their expectations. So that's very, very important. Lead acid been around for over 100 years. The technology with the enclosures and the way that they're set up, they shut down, and lead acid fires. We have seen over amped batteries that have been used too heavily catch on fire, yes indeed, but they haven't burnt down the building and haven't killed people. So we're very cognizant and aware of the issues with lead acid batteries, and we deal with them and we install accordingly. Lead acid is a known technology. Lithium is an unknown technology. A lot of the batteries are not marked. From firefighters, we respond. Since we do forensic work, we respond a lot with first responders, and they are terrified of both solar and they're terrified of lithium batteries. So it's very, very important that the batteries are marked. If you're going to install lithium, we prefer them installed outside, away from sources of ignition, and in good storage locations where they're safe. Safety concerns. Lithium batteries can reignite. Lead acid batteries, once they're out, they're out. Very, very important issue. Mark your lithium batteries, mark the hazardous location, mark them on your home, mark them so that if you're a home or business, mark them so a first responder knows where they're at and can treat them properly with chemical extinguishment and not water. Many firefighters are not trained to put out lithium fires, so they're scared to death. They usually call us and want us to disassemble them or shut them down before they deal with it. Cost, cost is very important. I'm trying to remember, I can't even remember how much I paid for my batteries. It's been that long ago. But my batteries have lasted for 24 years, so that amortization, I think I paid, about maybe $4 or $5 grand back there for 24 batteries, and they've lasted for 24 years, so that's pretty darn good amortization on batteries. Lead acid is much less expensive than lithium, and we are using a lot of AGM instead of lithium in many, many applications just because we know we can depend on them. We oversize the arrays, and we use vertical racks in order to take care of any space considerations. 50 to 90% cheaper on lead acid, and lithium can cost 10 times as much, and the lifetime is questionable.